Hey Garth, how's it going?
Jason, it's awesome.
Back in Calgary. I'm good. I'm happy. This
still
is
in Calgary. Still in Calgary. It's not like I'm flying back and forth. I'm still here in Calgary. We're just getting some podcasts recorded for our listeners. It's great.
I have a question for you this morning.
Yeah.
So, have you faced a crisis in school? I'm sure you have some level of crisis, but I'm curious, what was the first thing you said to yourself in your mind when you heard the news of the crisis? We don't have to get into what the crisis was or how it impacted you or your community or how it turned out. What was the first thing you said in your mind?
Are they okay?
Right. And why? Where does that come from?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like in a crisis, I think I should say, in a crisis, I think I am most concerned about health and safety.
Yeah.
Health and safety, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Like, are these people, or is this person okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's the sort of the first thing I go to. And it's not, are they great? Are they fine? Like, are they okay? And when I think when I say that, I'm just like talking out loud right now about okay means to me, it's like baseline.
Mm-hmm.
Is this survivable without any catastrophic changes to their life?
Yeah.
Is this survivable? There might be trauma, but is that trauma, are they going to get through it? Are they okay? What do they need is also implied in that for me. And then what's implied in that next sequence is like, are they okay? What do they need? How can I help?
Yeah.
And so, times of crisis or great change, that's what I think.
So, and the reason I bring it up, Garth, is like, I think in times of chaos, to find calm in that chaos, we've got to have underlying principles and self-talk that allows ourselves to pull us through. And so whether that's in Stoicism or whether that's in some other guiding principle, I think having that at the ready in the moment of crisis will sustain the leader and potentially the organization and support those who are in crisis.
Yeah. And so I don't know if "Are you okay" is like something that would sustain me in that way.
But I think it centers you.
It certainly does.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Thank
you. And I think it centers you and calms you in the chaos.
Yeah, it centers me, and I think it focuses me.
Yes. And so today we're entering into a conversation around a book called Calm in the Chaos.
Yeah.
Right. We talk a little bit about Stoicism in this podcast, but we also talk about like how do our principles guide us, and what do we believe in, and what are the tenets of Stoicism, and how can those support us as we move through chaos on occasion in schools, like we might be as we're approaching report card season. And we lead into a really incredible book in the next episode.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. Enjoy, listeners.
Yeah.
Good one.
Hope you enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
Lassoing leadership, sharp and true. Beard's Book Club got wisdom for you. Turn the pages, let the stories flow. Unpacking lessons as we grow.
Hey, listeners, welcome back to Lassoing Leadership. I'm your host, Garth Nichols, joined as always and again here in Calgary.
Yeah, it's in our new living room studio. It's been a real pleasure to have you live and in person. I can't wait to get out to Toronto. We'll do it again when we get out there.
Yeah.
Because I'm liking the vibe of the live podcast. So it's good. It's good.
So today we are introducing the next in our series of 3 in Beard's Book Club, and this series is going to be focusing on calm in the chaos.
Yes.
Yeah, Danny Bauer and his partner Glenn, and they do an incredible job reminding us what should be at the core of leadership. So I'm really looking forward to diving into this one.
This is a great book, and it's a bit of a sleeper. I think we stumbled onto it over a year ago when we had Danny on the first time.
Yeah.
And Danny, his job title is Chief Ruckus Maker, right? And so that kind of centered around a lot of our conversation from the earlier seasons. Like, hey, Danny, what is a Chief Ruckus Maker, and what's it all about? So, Garth, for our listeners who might not have listened to the last season when Danny was on talking about ruckus making, what's your take of it? Like, what's Danny's kind of position? What's that all about?
Yeah. So he is not an interrupter of education. He's a real disruptor of education. And what I mean by that is he believes that when we make small tweaks to systems in order to make education better, we're not actually achieving what we want to achieve. So he is encouraging leaders who become ruckus makers themselves to really reimagine systems and structures within the school to make school a place worth showing up for.
Yeah.
Right. And we talked a little bit about what it means to show up in our last book with Phoebe Trotman. But this is talking about how do you compel students, not through any other transactional means or like that, but just making the experience about them, for them, and of them, essentially, like in service to others. And so ruckus making is about how do we examine the systems and structures? How do we change them with that sort of intentionality to make this campus a place worth showing up for?
And he's a real provocateur. Like he is out there and he is disruptive and he has no problem doing that. And the next episode is, as we listen to the interview, I think we'll hear and feel that. Yeah. But I mean, Garth, why, in your opinion, do you think disruption or ruckus making is so required in our education systems? Or is it? Like, is this a fool's errand? Or is this like, what is that all about?
Yeah, I think I've never been a fan of the status quo.
Yeah.
And I think my bent is that, it's that old saying, the river you stand in is not the river you stepped in. And that things are constantly changing like water around you. And they're changing not only who you are, but the environment in which you live. Mm-hmm. And so we constantly have to be not managing schools. Mm-hmm. We have to be evaluating, assessing how our schools are meeting our mission statement, how our schools are adjusting to what's happening currently, what might happen in the future, like the possible future, the preferred future, and always examining what do we want to hang on to from the past. So I think ruckus making is about that. It's that intentional examination of how our schools now being able to meet the mission and the outcomes for our students. And so I don't think it's a fool's errand. I think it's actually the purpose of leadership in schools.
Yeah.
And if you find yourself just managing and repeating things, I don't think you're doing justice to yourself and your own potential, but also to your students and the world that is rapidly changing around them.
Yeah.
And what I love about Danny in this book, even in the title, it's calm. This isn't about frenetic change of pace. Yeah. It's not about let's change this, let's change that. In the podcast, listeners, he actually talks about leaders need to create a space between the stimulus and the response.
Yes.
And leadership lives in the space between that. And it's that calm in that space. Now, sometimes that space might be 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might be a month, depending on the urgency. But the idea here is that innovation is essential, that ruckus making is essential to education. That's what Danny espouses. But it's not to be done. It's not to be done flippantly. It's not to be done just hanging on to like what's currently trendy. Be done with intention and purpose. And he does a great job of curating this and what ruckus makers are doing around the United States and around the world on ruckusmaker.com. Like it's pretty cool.
And we placed this book in this order for a particular reason. Yeah. We know that we're about in report card season. We know there's a bit of chaos in our environment. We might be coming up on parent-teacher interviews, and there's an energy. And I think what they talk about in this book is really about Stoicism, right? And how do we create that calm? And I mean, Garth, you and I have talked about it a bit in the past, but Ryan Holiday's done a ton of writing. Daily Stoic. Here I've got Right Thing, Right Now. Talks about, the pillars of Stoicism, courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom. And how do we, set those as our North Star as we're moving through these chaos? So I know you're more of a study on Stoicism than I am. But I'm curious, like, how does Stoicism play in leadership, school leadership or otherwise, in your mind? Why is it an important skill to have as we're in these chaotic times?
Yeah, I think I think Stoicism, the four virtues of Stoicism that you listed, offer us a really good talisman to hang on to.
Yeah.
Right. So I've got it up here. So I'll just read it to you. So wisdom, Epictetus says, the chief task in life is simply to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which externals are not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually have control over. Where then do I look for good and evil? Not in uncontrollable externals, but within myself, to the choices that are my own.
Right.
So in certain moments, you need to evaluate how much of this is in your control.
Yeah.
And I think that in and of itself is a really good practice for leaders.
Yeah.
They can also evaluate, what choices do I have to make in response to this? Like, what is in my control? So I really appreciate that about wisdom.
That's real wisdom for sure.
The next one is temperance, also known as like moderation.
Yeah.
So from Marcus Aurelius, he says, if you seek tranquility, do less, or more accurately, like do what is essential.
Right.
Right. So really figure out as a leader what is essential in my practice, in my organization, and focus on that. And don't get lost doing these sort of as a fool's errands, doing these other things trendy or what have you.
Yeah.
So for me as a leader, that's like, stick to your mission.
Yeah.
Stick to the purpose and the outcomes that you want. And then courage, go back to Epictetus. Don't you know life is like a military campaign? One must serve on watch, others in reconnaissance, others on the front line. So it is for us. Each person's life is a kind of battle, and a long and varied one too. You must keep watch like a soldier and do everything commanded. You have been stationed in a key post, not some lowly place, and not for a short term, but for life.
Yeah.
This talks about showing up,
yeah,
right? To persist and resist, like to constantly be able to have the fortitude to show up. And I think we talked a lot about that with Phoebe Trotman's book as well. So that's courage. And then finally, justice is a commitment to justice in our own acts, which means thought and action resulting in the common good. And so when you're making these decisions, to have justice as a sort of talisman in considering all the different perspectives and in considering who is going to be impacted by the decisions you make. Again, like what's in your control, what's out of your control. I think those are 4 great pieces to hang on to.
No doubt.
Stoicism. Yeah. And the book goes through all of these.
Yeah. If you love those, you like the feeling of those as being your North Star or your principles, like they're pretty clear leadership principles that you can follow. I can't recommend, Holiday's books or Danny and this book more, because I think it gives you that real life practical example. And so when we think about, we talk a lot about habits, like leadership habits on this podcast throughout our seasons.
Yeah.
Garth, I'm just super curious, like what is a habit that you use to remain calm in the chaos? Like what is a small daily thing that you do just as an offering to our listeners? And I think everybody in situ, right? In situ. It's like, it's only right for you in this moment, in this day.
Yeah.
But what's a hack or two that you use to allow yourself to stay calm in the chaos?
Well, I'll give you a couple. One is I very rarely hit the send button on emails, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I constantly use the schedule send.
Yeah.
And again, that's like stimulus response, just creating a bit of a gap.
Yeah. Slowing it down.
Allows you to go back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In the first episode that we had Danny on, he walked us through a breathing exercise.
Yeah, that's so good.
And I am starting to see more and more of that in professional athletes that I follow.
Yeah.
Even in a sport that's near and dear to my heart, which is triathlon.
Yeah.
Where every second counts in transitions. You can see them coming off the bike, getting ready for their run, and you can see them just gathering themselves a little bit.
Yeah.
And so anything you can use to gather yourself, I think is a really, really strong thing. And for me, and this goes back to the practice of Marcus Aurelius, like the original, one of the original Stoic leaders.
Yeah.
I just journal. I tend to write a lot of things down.
Yeah.
And for me, it's more practical things. I don't write like how I'm feeling or anything along those lines. I just make sure that I'm writing things down. And again, just gives you a bit of that break between, like the physical break between the event and your feelings, gives between the event and your ability to reflect on it. What about you? Do you have practices?
Yeah, I mean, like I was just thinking, like I think the biggest practice I have is like it's journaling, but it's public journaling. And I would say it's just notes of gratitude. And so generally, Garth, what I think about is like, what do we generally value? What are our values in our organization? Where am I seeing those values lived? And how do I support that? And I see it as a bit of a flywheel opportunity where it's like, you support that action by saying, thank you, I see you, I appreciate you. And I do think it continues to evolve. So if you're looking for, kindness as one of our values at Rundle, I'll spend a lot of time writing gratitude notes around kindness, and it's a daily practice, and it really does help in the positive psychology side, where it helps you see some of the bright when there might be a lot of chaos going on. There's a lot of things happening all the time, so you do have to force yourself to see the good. So I think that's a daily practice that works for me. And like I said, some people, it might be journaling. Other people, it might be daily reading or studying. Others, it might be just conversations or a weekly podcast. I don't know. But that might be how they work through it.
Yeah. No, that's great advice too. In the podcast with Danny and Glenn, we learn a little bit about his writing partner, Glenn.
Yeah.
He does an incredible job. Superintendent.
It's so good.
District too.
Yeah.
But one of the things we talk about in the podcast is how you show up in terms of wisdom. Right? And as Seneca put it, works, not words. And so how do you show up? And one of the things he shows up in is these crazy outfits. So listeners, we talk a little bit about what it means to just be physically present, and how you show up really, really matters. We talk about rule number 6.
Rule number 6 is so good.
Let's not give that away.
Yeah.
But we talk about rule number 6. So dive into Calm in the Chaos, because it's a short book. It's really accessible, and you can just flip through it if you haven't already. Because as Jason said, like, we're recording in Calgary right now, but we know when we're releasing this podcast, and there's a lot happening in your lives, it's worth it just to take a moment, grab this book, or gift the book to somebody else. Because it'll pay off. It's really great.
Great. And I think before we close, this season, we're really counting on listener feedback, comments. We really do want to share some of your experience with the world. So if you have a way to stay calm in the chaos and you want to share it, we'd love to attribute it to you and bring that up in episode 3. Yeah. Even if you have any questions about, any of this stuff that you hear on this podcast or the next one, we'll be recording again after Danny's episode drops, and we'd love for you to jump in.
Yeah. So thanks very much, everybody. And Jason, you take us home.
Yeah. Until next time, keep leading the lasso away.
Nice.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jason.
Grab your coffee, grab your seat. It's time to learn, it's time to meet. Garth and Jason setting the tone. Leadership lessons to take back home. Lassoing leadership, sharp and true. Beard's Book Club got wisdom for you. Turn the pages, let the stories flow. Unpacking lessons as we grow. Keep leading the lasso way. Together we'll grow stronger every day. So plug in your headphones and let's start the show. With lessons from Ted, we'll learn and grow. Lassoing leadership, sharp and true. Beard's Book Club got wisdom for you. Turn the pages, let the stories flow. Unpacking lessons as we grow. Keep leading the lasso way. Together we'll grow stronger every day. So plug in your headphones and let's start the show with lessons from Ted.